What is up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and today we are going to be doing a deck profile of this Justice Jubilee deck that I made called Rush Hour. So I've actually been working on this deck for the past few months, ever since we saw Jubilee's hero cards, and I really wanted to showcase this deck for you guys last Friday whenever Jubilee came out, but unfortunately I could not get the Jubilee hero pack, and I've been calling all the local game stores in my area. I actually live in a pretty populated city with like over 20 game stores, but none of them are big on Marvel Champions, and none of them have Marvel Champion stuff on the release date. And for Age of Apocalypse, I got really lucky because a store out of town about an hour away had the Age of Apocalypse expansion on the release date, but that store did not have Jubilee here. So hopefully I can get her in the next few days. But unfortunately, I won't be able to showcase this deck for you guys in the meantime. But a lot of you guys have been asking me about my take on Jubilee, if I have any deck ideas. So I decided to just go ahead and I'm going to just post this deck list and show you guys. I want to go a little bit into it. And I don't know, I haven't played this deck list, right? So I don't know if it's going to work how I plan it to. So I really wanted to be the one to, showcase it for you guys. But maybe you guys can play this deck list for me, and then I'll definitely check it out if you guys do. And I may even do like a reaction or critiquing y'all's play if you guys do something like that. But hopefully you guys can enjoy this deck list more than I can. But anyways, here's the concept for this deck. So it's called Rush Hour, and basically the premise of this deck is working around recurring Nick Fury over and over again. So Nick Fury and Jubilee, that's going to be our like iconic duel here. And Nick Fury is the strongest ally in the game. A lot of people, including myself, would say that he is the best card in the game. He's just your basic 4-cost ally that came in a core set, 2 Thor, 2 attack, 3 life. And after Nick Fury enters play, choose one. He can remove 2 threat from a scheme, draw 3 cards, or deal 4 damage to the enemy. I think we all know what Nick Fury does. One of the best, most versatile cards ever. And being able to play him turn after turn and recurring over and over again, I think it's going to be really powerful to any deck. And Jubilee actually has one of the best ways to do this. So let's go ahead and get into the big combo that we're looking for here with Jubilee. So in my opinion, so when I first saw this side scheme right here, the shopping spree side scheme, I think that this card is actually the most unique card in the entire game of Marvel Champions. It is super duper cool. So this is a player's side scheme here with 0 cost, and it comes in with 2 threat. So it doesn't matter if you play multiplayer with 2, 3, 4 players. There's always going to be that 2 threat on here, not 2 times player. And then the biggest thing about this side scheme that differentiates it from every other side scheme of its class, at least player side schemes, is that it does not have the victory keyword. So basically, whenever the shopping spree side scheme is defeated, it will go into your discard pile. And when you draw it back up again, or if you get it back, into your hand or put it back into play, then you can defeat it again and constantly defeat it over and over and over again. So this means that Jubilee can defeat side schemes over and over again. And then I want to take a look at her Mall Rat ability right here. So I have Jubilee's alter ego pulled up. So Mall Rat, as an action, you can search your deck for the shopping spree player side scheme and put it into play, limit once per phase, right? So that means that if the shopping spree side scheme is in your deck, all you gotta do is be an alter ego. You can trade this action and you can tutor it and put the shopping spree side scheme straight out right away, which is very, very powerful to tutor a side scheme. So let's take a look at this side scheme here. So it says threat cannot be removed from the scheme by heroes or allies. So what does that mean? It means that your hero cannot thwart the side scheme, allies also cannot thwart the side scheme. But it says heroes specifically, not alter egos. So if you're an alter ego, you can thwart if your alter ego has a way to thwart and remove threat from side schemes. That will work for this scheme. You also have an alter ego action right here on the scheme where you can exhaust your identity and remove 1 threat from here. Any player may trigger this ability. It also says allies, right? So allies cannot thwart from the scheme because it says threat cannot be removed from allies, but it can be removed from cards like persona cards or support cards because that's not an extension of your hero or an ally, right? And then you can also trigger the when defeated here, which says the player who defeated the scheme searches their deck and discard pile for an item card and puts it into play. That's not really a main focus for us in this deck. I think that item cards can be useful, but they're not super duper powerful like supports or anything like that. So I think that actually gives this card some balance, and that's not our main focus. I will take a look at the items in this deck a little bit later, but the main thing that we want to focus on, especially with this deck, is the ability to defeat this side scheme over and over again and trigger all the triggers that activate whenever a side scheme is defeated, right? So the main card that we want to be looking at right now is going to be Chance Encounter. So a lot of you guys, if you guys have seen my cable deck, you guys know that I love Chance Encounter, And Jubilee to me looks like one of the best heroes to play with Chance Encounter. So this is a zero cost upgrade. Attach to side scheme max 1 per scheme as an interrupt whenever a attached side scheme is defeated. The attached side scheme, I mean, search your deck and discard power for an ally, any ally, and add to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this card is so powerful because you can tutor any ally from your discard pile or your deck and put it straight up into your hand. And you guys already know the main goal with that is going to get the strongest ally in the game, Nick Fury. We want to recur Nick Fury over and over again. He is the strongest ally in the game. Why not get him over and over again? And that's going to facilitate Jubilee being super duper powerful and having us have huge player turns to be able to do whatever we want with the versatility to remove threat. He can use his basic thwart activation, attack activation to get rid of minions. He can chump block for us. He can do all these things, right? So, or he can even draw cards for us, right? So, just like probably you guys, 9% of the time we're gonna be picking the one to draw cards, so Nick Fury can refund his cost. But yeah, I mean that's just gonna be super duper effective and a really strong strategy. So for the shopping spree side scheme, we want to get in play. We want to play chance encounter on it, right? And then I want to talk about how we remove threat from shopping spree. And the main card that we want to remove threat is going to be Beat Cop here. You guys know I love Beat Cop. It's a 3-cost support and it is a persona card, right? So that's the major key with Beat Cop is that because it is a support and a persona, it is not an ally or a hero. So even if you're in hero form, you can exhaust Beat Cop as an action to move one threat from a scheme over to here. So this will work if you're in hero form to remove threat from shopping spree, even though threat cannot be removed from the scheme by heroes. It's not your hero that's removing the threat, it's the Beat Cop persona removing the threat. What's nice about Beat Cop is that it doesn't come with counter, so it stays in play forever. And it can also be an action that you can use in Alter Ego to remove threat from side schemes or the main scheme. So you can actually remove threat while you're in Alter Ego without thwarting as well, right? So it's just a great versatile card to allow you to bypass stuff like Patrol and just everything, right? You can use it in Alter Ego or in hero form, but for us, it's going to be a key focus for removing threat off of the shopping spree side scheme. And thematically, I think it works really well with the rush hour duel of Jubilee and Nick Fury because, you know, we're working with the Hong Kong police here with all these Beat Cops. Okay, so we got the Beat Cops, we got the chance encounter. I do want to talk about why I prefer Beat Cop over Surveillance Team. So Surveillance Team is a 2-cost support, very similar to Beat Cop. It comes in with 3 snoop counters though, right? So you can exhaust Surveillance Team and remove a snoop counter from it and remove 1 threat from a scheme. Very similar to Beat Cop, except that it's temporary because whenever the 3 snoop counters are gone, you discard this card. Beat Cop doesn't come with counters, so it stays in play forever. But it costs 1 more. So Jubilee is a very high economy hero because she has these double resources right here with the 3 plasma energies in her hero kit. So she can easily pay for a lot of cards. So I think it doesn't, it's not that much for her to pay 1 more cost for a Beat Cop and have it in play permanently forever. Because for late game, we want these Beat Cops here to remove threats. If we have 2 Beat Cops down, we can take off both of the threat from the shopping spree side scheme every single turn that we put the shopping spree side scheme into play, right? And we want to try to trigger this alter ego action every single turn to get the shopping spree side scheme, tutor it, put it straight into play, and then clear it off. And then we can do that, and then we can also trigger our chance encounters if we're playing it on the shopping spree side scheme, and then recur Nick Fury over and over again for massive turns. So that's why I prefer Beat Cop here over the Surveillance Team. And then I do want to talk about, so for the shopping spree side scheme here, the big thing with Jubilee's Alter Ego Action Mall Rat is that you can only search your deck for the shopping spree side scheme, right? I really wish that you could search your deck and discard pile, but unfortunately, if the shopping spree side scheme goes into the discard pile, you cannot tutor it from there and put it straight into play. I think that's kind of a way to add balance to that. But, I mean, Jubilee is a mutant, and she has access to a card called Mutant Education. And I actually think that Mutant Education is kind of made perfectly for Jubilee. Like this card is so strong for Jubilee. It's a 0-cost event. You can only play if your identity has a mutant trait, which obviously Jubilee is an X-Men and she's a mutant in Alter Ego. So she has that trait. And then as an Alter Ego action, you can choose up to 2 identity-specific cards in your discard pile, shuffle them into your deck, and if X-Mansion is in play, draw a card. So this card surface value may not be as good, right? Because you shuffle the cards into your deck. So if you don't have a way to tutor them, then it's not that useful, at least immediately, right? There's no immediate board presence from this card because it just goes into your deck. You don't have access to that card right away. But Jubilee, as we talked about before with her Alter Ego action here, you can tutor that side scheme in your deck straight into play. So that means that if you play Mutant Education, that side scheme is going to be in your deck, and then Jubilee can put it straight out and immediately have a board presence with the shopping spree, and we can immediately clear it with the beat cop here. So that gives us a very, very reliable way to always have an easy side scheme for us to clear every single turn and trigger our chance encounters, getting Nick Fury, more draw power, cycling through our deck, all that stuff. And then we can also trigger a lot of other stuff too, like Skilled Investigator too. So I do want to talk about the Skilled Investigator a little bit. So this is a very good card. It's a 0-cost upgrade play under any player's control, max 1 per player. As a hero response after the side scheme is defeated, exhaust this card and you can draw a card. So this is one of the best cards in the game, but unfortunately it is a hero response, not a plane response, which means that you can only trigger this card if you're in hero form. So Jubilee is going to be often removing or defeating side schemes in her alter ego. When that happens, we won't be able to trigger the Skilled Investigator. However, Beat Cop allows us to remove a threat in hero and alter ego form. So we really want to pay attention and try to clear off shopping spree while we are in hero form with the B cops here, so that we can trigger these Skilled Investigators and get that free card draw. But if we can't, it's still not the biggest deal in the world. We just want to be very mindful of when we have the Skilled Investigator out to try to trigger it if we can. But one thing that really makes this deck run really well is that the interrupt on chance encounter, it's not a hero interrupt or an alter ego interrupt, so we can trigger it whether we're in alter ego or in hero form, which gives us so much versatility with this card. And that's kind of what makes this deck able to run really well. At least I hope. Yeah, okay, so we got that. And then we talked about Mutant Education here. I have the write-up pretty much done. Okay, so I want to talk about the items here, right, with the cell phone and stuff. So Jubilee in this deck, we don't have that much access to item cards, right? Jubilee has 2 identity-specific items in her sunglasses right here. She gets +1 attack, and she has a hero response attack. And she also has her coat. It's a 2-cost upgrade. She gets +1 thwart. It has an item keyword again, and a hero response thwart. And then we also have cell phone and disguise are our aspect cards. A basic card is a cell phone, and then we have the justice aspect disguise here. So most of the time, our main target with shopping spree, at least the first time that we clear it, is going to be getting out the item Jubilee's coat, because we want that +1 thwart added to Jubilee stack, because that's going to be huge to allow us to remove a lot more threat, because we are really focusing on side schemes, and just managing threat here. Another good target early game would also be to get the disguise here. So this is a 1-cost upgrade that came in a Jubilee hero pack, but it's not a Jubilee identity specific card, so you don't have to include it in your Jubilee deck if you don't want to. It's max 1 per player. As an action, thwart, exhaust disguise and your identity, and remove 2 threat from a scheme. So this card kind of goes hand in hand. It's made specifically for shopping spree here, right? So 2 threat from here. If you exhaust yourself and the disguise and alter ego, you can remove 2 threat from the shopping spree. But one thing to make note about this card is that although it's a great way to help us reliably remove threat and clear off shopping spree early game, it's not that valuable late game, especially once we get the B cops going, because you have to exhaust disguise and your identity, and this card we cannot use in hero form. So it's an action, right? So we can use in hero form, but if you use in hero form, it's considered a hero thwarting, right? So when we take a look at shopping spree again, it says threat cannot be removed from the scheme by heroes or allies. So if we trigger disguise and alter ego, it's considered your alter ego that's going to be the one removing the threat from here, which is okay. But if we're in hero form, then we cannot trigger the disguise to remove the threat from here, right? So if we're in hero form a lot, especially late game, we want to be able to remove threat from the shopping spree side scheme, which means that B cop is going to be the more reliable way to go. And then, yeah, but this is still a great item upgrade to just get in play, because we don't have that many items anyways. Once again, the shopping spree effect to get an item from your deck or discard pile and put it into play, that's not the biggest deal, but we do want us to take full advantage of it, because we are clearing a side scheme and we want to get all the benefits that we can. So that's kind of why we have cell phone here. And I don't necessarily think cell phone is the best card in the game or anything like that, but it has that item keyword, which is huge for us. It comes in with 3 charge counters. So when the counters are gone, it gets this card. It's not something that stays in play forever. So as an action, you can exhaust cell phone, remove 1 charge counter from here, and then choose a player. That player makes a basic attack or basic thwart. So that means that that player can exhaust to make a basic attack or basic thwart with the character they control, and then that character gets +1 thwart and +1 attack for this use. So this card is not that valuable in solo play, right? In solo play, it's effectively just giving any character you have +1 thwart or +1 attack for an activation. They still have to exhaust. But I actually think in multiplayer, this card is really cool because it's an action, right? Normally, you cannot request in multiplayer another player to have their allies or their hero make a basic activation like a Thor attack. You can play hero actions that are Thor and attacks with the keyword Thor and attack, but not actually have them make a basic Thor attack. But with cell phone here, you can exhaust a cell phone and actually trigger a basic activation from another character, from another player, out of their player turn, which I think is really, really cool. But at least in solo, you can't really do that, right? Because you're playing solo anyway, so you can do all the basic activations during your turn. But this comes in with the item keyword, and it gives your character +1 Thor or +1 attack, which is nice. And having that item keyword means that we can always put it into play with the shopping spree side scheme, right? We're going to be clearing the shopping spree side scheme like, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times per game, just clearing over and over again so we can constantly recur Nick Fury with our chance encounters. So we're going to be getting so many items into play, but Jubilee only has access to the coat, sunglasses, and disguise here. So cell phone, since it has that uses keyword with the 3 charge counters, means that whenever it goes away, we can constantly just get it back and put it back into play. And we can always give characters that we control the +1 Thor and +1 attack, which I think is going to be very valuable throughout the course of a game. Okay, and then let's take a look here. What else did I have on the, so we talked about Skilled Investigator. And yeah, I want to talk about the side schemes here. So Jubilee and Nick love side schemes. So we have 5 side schemes in this deck. And, maybe there'll be more side schemes in the future, and we could definitely add more in. But I definitely think that build support, Lay the Trap, and specialized training are very solid side schemes for here. Generation X is a player side scheme that came with the Jubilee hero pack. It's good for us because it's a 0 cost side scheme with 3 threats, so we can put it into play if we have nothing else, because Jubilee wants to be clearing side schemes every single turn. She's kind of like our mini Cable, right? We're going to be doing a mini Cable impersonation here with Jubilee, so we want to try to get side schemes over and over again, and Shopping Spree is a very reliable way to do that, but if we can't, then we want to have other side schemes to access with it, and that's also why we have one way or another as well, so we can tutor a enemy side scheme from the encounter deck, put it into play, draw 3 cards, and then we can also attach the chance encounter to it and then clear it off or something like that, right? So I do want to go a little bit over the side schemes really quick. So for build support here, and this super duper solid. It's probably the best player side scheme in the game. Cost 1 to put down. When you defeat it, you can search your deck and discard out for a support with a cost 3 or less put into play. So this is very versatile. We have 5 supports here that we can target. We can't get the Avengers Mansion because it costs 4, but all these other ones cost 3 or less, so we can't target it. X Mansion is good because we can always just heal in our alter ego, but we can play Mutant Education and then draw a card if the X Mansion is in play. So that's very useful for that. We have the X Jet, which can help us generate a wild resource in hero form while we have the X-Men trait on Jubilee. And then Beat Cop, we have 3 in the deck. If we ever need to get one out, the build support can easily just tutor that for us. But like I said earlier, I think Jubilee has pretty high economy to be able to get the Beat Cops out if she needs to. And then we also have Lay the Trap here for Jubilee's damage. It's a 1 cost side scheme. When defeated, the player who defeats the scheme deals 5 times player damage to the villain. So just a more reliable way to get some damage out. Jubilee doesn't necessarily have the most reliable damage in her hero kit with her firecrackers and her grand finale. They're decent, but getting that extra oomph with the layer trap I think is going to be big for late game. And then, so this is the one side scheme that we don't necessarily want to put immediately unless we really desperately need a side scheme to clear, because we need Nick Fury with our chance encounters. But other than that, we don't really want to prioritize the layer trap that much early game. Shopping Spree we already talked about. Specialized training is going to be great too. It's a 1 cost player side scheme. When defeated, it has a victory keyword, so it goes into the victory display. But we can get a specialization upgrade, which is really good. It's either +1 Thor, +1 attack, or +4 hit points, or the one to get +1 defense. We probably don't want that one with Jubilee, but the +1 Thor is always going to be useful for us Thoring a lot. And then lastly, let's talk about Generation X here. It can be useful, especially for late game and in a crunch time situation, right? So when this side scheme is defeated, each player may search their deck and discard pile for an identity specific event and add to your hand. So this is kind of like our way to get that final big burst damage if we need it, right? We can have Later Trap in combination with Generation X. If we're playing solo, you cannot have 2 players side schemes in play at the same time, but we can clear one out, put the other one down, and clear it again, and then get like a strong attack like our grand finale or something like that for the final like big burst damage with Jubilee. In early game, this is a good size game to just get out to and easily clear because it doesn't cost anything to put down, and we can get something like a thwarting event or something like that, like the Flash of Light or something like that, to do more the remove from the main scheme too. So this is a card that's pretty versatile to just get down and clear, and it's easy because it costs 0 to play. So that's kind of the reason of having that card in the deck. And then obviously we want the under surveillance in our deck as well. Attached to the main scheme, max 1 per scheme. You can increase the target threat value of the attached scheme by 4. So that will give us a lot more breathing room when playing Injustice, because we're flipping down to alter ego so many times, so we can trigger the mall rat, right? This alter ego action to get the shopping spree player side scheme into play, and we need to be an alter ego to do that. So we want the under surveillance to give us that breathing room that we need. And then Jubilee also has many ways to confuse, right, with her flash of lights here, right? So this is a 2-cost event here, superpower and thwart. As a hero action thwart, we can remove 3 threat from a scheme. If you pay for this card using 2 different resource types, we can confuse an enemy. So that's Jubilee's main thing. She has to use different resource types when paying for cards to get the full effect off, right? And we need that confused so that we can reliably flip down to alter ego to do our mall rat thing that we were talking about earlier. And then basically, I think that that's a pretty easy trigger for us to activate, right? Just paying for this card using 2 different resource types when we're paying for it. And we have wilds that can generate anything, so we can have that be whatever resource that we need. And then with Jubilee's double resources here, right, the plasma energies, that not only gives her so much economy to help pay for, Nick Fury, who's 4 costs, Avengers Mansion, 4 costs, the Beat Cop, which is also 3 costs, but it can also pay for her thwart events and immediately get the confuse off, because these are different resource types, right? It's a mental and energy physical, and physical and mental. For the other resource types that I put in this deck, I went ahead and put the energy, genius, and strength. I think that these are still going to be valuable for Jubilee, even though they aren't different resource types. Obviously, if we're paying for a flash of light, the energy, genius, and strength aren't going to be as good, but we can still just use, the energy and use like a different resource, like, a mental, right? Or yeah, the mental resource right here. And we can overpay for the flash of light. But as long as that we're considering the mental and one of the energies from energy to count towards paying for it, and the excess energy to be the overpay, then we're still using 2 different resources when paying for this card, and we can still get the secondary effect of confusing an enemy off, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's still going to be better than the power in all of us, or the power of justice for this deck specifically, because that can always only generate 1 resource, even though it is a wild, because we can still use the doubles here for either Beat Cop or Nick Fury or Avengers Mansion, right? We're not locked in basics or justice cards, because we don't have that many expensive cards in the game. But having expensive Beat Cops, Avengers Mansions, means that the double resources are always going to be viable if they're universal, like the genius, energy, and strength cards. And then if we are kind of stuck in a situation and we need to play Jubilee sunglasses or her coat from her hand, and we have double, then we can just go ahead and do that. And we can always use the energy, genius, and strength to pay for Jubilee's identity specific cards as well, right? It's going to be useful for blinding flash, which costs 3, and we generally just want to confuse, the villain or something like that. We don't need to confuse a full, 3 enemies with it most of the time, unless you're swarmed with minions. But getting the stun and confuse on the villain is going to be good enough. So it's going to be useful for that, which the power in all of us or power of justice won't be able to generate 2 resources when paying for it. And then worst case, we can also play Jubilee's coat or her sunglasses with those doubles, right? We want to not actually play these cards from her hand because they are item cards, which means that we actually want to tutor it with the shopping spree and put it into play with this card. It's going to be more efficient. But at the end of the day, if we can't, it's still going to be useful to play out if we have nothing else in our hand. And yeah, I think that's kind of why I opt for the doubles here. I think that doubles are always going to be very useful. They're some of the best cards in the game, and I think even for Jubilee, it's going to be useful for paying, for Wolverine and stuff like that too. And I think that is it. Yeah, I think I went through every single card in this deck. I went through how I think this deck will play out. We basically just want to be getting the side schemes out, especially shopping spree, putting the chance encounter on it, clearing it out over and over again, getting Nick Fury into play every single turn, getting his card draw, just getting a massive amount of cards, and the versatility that Nick Fury provides. And that's kind of it here with the Rush Hour deck. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hope you guys enjoy this deck. If you do play this deck, definitely let me know. Send me a link or something like that if you guys have a recording of it, or even if you just play it, please give me as much feedback as possible, because I'm not able to test this deck out myself. And yeah, I'm going to be pretty much living this deck through you guys. So, if you guys have any gameplay, please send it my way. I would love to see this. I'm super excited to get this deck into action. I definitely want to, see how it runs, and I'll probably do a reaction if you guys will allow me to. Just let me know as well. But yeah, I am super duper excited for this deck. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you guys enjoy this deck list. Please let me know how it goes, and please give me any feedback you guys have. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.